Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke, so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. I've had quite the ADHD rabbit hole thing for the little last while, so I'm still a little out of it, a little frustrated trying to find something I can't find. And it's really annoying because I was really hoping to have it for everyone today. We'll get to it in a moment, but let's just see who's all in the sandbox so far. We have Monope, Robert G, Mudbuds, Morbius Dragon, Kelly Bach, MIDI Doctor, Soul Life, BCat K. And yeah, that is awesome. John Ross. You guys rock. I have a cat on my lap. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I did something to my audio. I don't know if it's made any difference. So if I sound really loud or odd, let me know in the sandbox and I'll try my best to remember to look. Oh. Oh. I've been posting clips of my live stream with Ravana, and I had a short do really well on YouTube. Got over 1,200 views, which is my first short to get over 1,000 views, so that kind of rocks. But I'm still trying to work out the algorithms and stuff, so at this point, I'm going back to the live streams I've done since Ravana, not before that. I'm going to be going through them and clipping them, and it takes me a long time. Because it is just me and stuff. And I want to get caught up so that every day I'm releasing clips of some sort or the other. And I still want to get back to doing my video essays, which I will get to in a moment. Okay, let's see. Morbius Dragon says the audio sounds great, so does MIDI Doctors. Okay. Basically, I turned the knobs on my Yeti mic to match what Ravana had. I was copying her because she always sounds amazing. And I don't know, when I put this in the video editing program, quite often I find my audio has a bit of a tingy, like metallic sound to it that drives me crazy. And I don't know how to fix that. Oh, I didn't start recording. I'm really scattered brain right now, and I'll get into it. John Ross, how am I today? I'm in a mood. Not the same type of mood that Dan was in last night. Ooh, he was all over the place. No, this is more an exacerbation mood. Okay, so I am going to be doing a follow-up on something I covered on Wednesday, and that was a stand-up comedy show for the Friends of the IDF. And why don't I just get to the poster and I'll explain what the rabbit hole was in just a moment. So here we go. So there was this poster that was floating around on Twitter and Instagram that I saw, and unfortunately, they didn't do a very good job with this poster because I think a lot of people were confused thinking that this poster was the actual poster promoting the stand-up comedy show, whereas this poster was actually a call to people to come out and protest the comedy show at Yuck Yucks. Now, what was this comedy show? It was a comedy show standing up for Israel, the Friends of the IDF, and donations would go towards supporting Friends of the IDF, which is an organization of some sort. You know, not exactly what I would want to base a comedy show around. You know, maybe it's just my quirky sense of humor. Maybe it's that I'm Canadian. And we have a different sense of humor up here because it's like those were, I think, all Americans coming up here to do their special show, even though it was in Toronto. And if I had known about it earlier, I would not have bought a ticket, even though I rather liked one of the people in the show, and we'll get to that in a moment. So I was going over this with Dan on Wednesday, and like I said, this poster here was really kind of confusing. Yuck Yucks is hosting a show raising money for Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces. Show them that supporters of genocide of Palestinians are not welcome in this city. And that almost read like showed them by coming out to the show. Like it was confusing. And then I read, when I was reading the comments here, or the description here, that's when I actually started to clue in. It's like, oh, this poster is actually calling on people to come out to protest the event. But regardless of that, seeing how weird this was, like a Yuck Yuck show for Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces, I was a bit skeptical. So I went directly to their webpage, which you can't see anymore because the event has passed. It was on January 31st. Darn it, I didn't even refresh that tab. It was still there when I last looked at it. But it showed, a tiny little poster that you couldn't enlarge. And, if you wanted to click for more details, you had to request the details. You couldn't just get the details on the show, which was really interesting all in itself. So this was a special show. So this Yuck Yucks is a comedy club. They have their regular shows and stuff like that. So this was outside people coming into the venue of Yuck Yucks to do their show. So I noticed something when I was live with Dan, something that I found disappointing, because on that tiny, tiny, tiny poster, there was a name of one of the performers, one of the stand-up comedians. And I recognized that name, Judy Gold. Now, some of you who are watchers of mine are also watchers of the Majority Report. And so some of you may know she is a regular guest on the Friday Fun shows. She is a friend of Sam's. And I was actually really disappointed by that, but at the same time, can I say I was surprised? I don't know. But I started searching for stuff, and then I at least found this when I was searching for what I'll tell you in a minute what I was searching for. So this is a bigger poster, so it's a 27-city tour that they're going on. Stand Up for Israel plus special guests, Judy Gold, Aaron Berg, Rich Voss, Mazi Almae. I'm not good with names. And yeah, I was disappointed to see Judy Gold on there because, I only recently started following her on Instagram, and that's where we get into my little rabbit hole. You see, this morning when I woke up, I tend to stay in bed for a little bit because Frodo, not doing great right now, but he still likes his morning snuggles. And so while I'm on my phone scrolling through stuff, he'll be on my arm, just, resting on me and cuddling, which is super sweet. And I love that. And since I've posted on Instagram recently with some of the reels that I've been doing, the clipping of my shows, there was actually notifications there. So I went there and I found a video from Judy Gold about this event. Just to say, $55 and then $85 VIP. And then there was also a meet and greet that you could, come on, $55 for the show. Meet and greet, yay. So I saw a video from her about this, and then under her video was another video about the event. And I think it was the opening person, and it was about a minute and a half long. And it was part of his little spiel, his stick, his comedy stand-up. And I thought, wow, this would be amazing for my show. for the life of me, I can't find that clip. I have searched like you wouldn't believe. I have put in so many terms and phrases and stuff because I don't know who even it was. Like, the reason why I even found this poster, this poster here, this poster, was because I was scouring the internet looking for anything I could to find this one singular minute-and-a-half long clip of this video thing. And I couldn't for the life of me. There's no way to just search Instagram history because I came across this video this morning. Just this morning. And I couldn't find it. Because it's not like I liked it or anything, but I was thinking, wow, I have some really good stuff I can say to this and really poignant, and I can't find it. But I've put so many search terms into Instagram right now that Meta, Facebook, whatever, it's all the same company, probably thinks I'm like a raging Zionist right now. With all the things I was putting there, you know, which might actually help boost my Instagram videos. You know, I'm just saying. So it was driving me crazy. If anyone can find it, I'd appreciate it, you linking it to me. But all I can say is that it's from January 31st. It's probably the opening act. I found this poster here, and so I actually searched all of these people on Instagram to see if I could find it. Couldn't. Like, I am a bit of a sleuth when it comes to this, but since I didn't know the name of the person, and there's so many things you can't really search easily in Instagram. I don't know Instagram well. I couldn't find the clip. Driving me freaking insane. Just absolutely insane. Because part of what he was saying, this comedian up there, and it's like, oh, thank you for coming out, and we're raising money for the Friends of the IDF to help support the brave men and women fighting over in Gaza. Yeah, it takes really brave people to commit genocide, to go over there and slaughter children. That's what brave people do. You know, brave people do not, you know, work on a ceasefire, work out peace agreements, try to, you know, get past differences, you know, try to mend wounds and all that sort of stuff. That's not what brave people do. What brave people do is they drop 2,000-pound bombs on refugee camps. That's what brave people do, and they need money. So there's this fundraiser for them, and Judy Gold was part of it. And like I said, I was kind of disappointed seeing her there. So this is the video that she had posted to... Stop that. She had posted to Instagram. Let's see.
This is comedy today.
Technology. There we go.
This is comedy today. This is comedy today. We're going to our comedy show tonight.
Peacefully, but this will happen.
Murder.
Go through this
You're
way.
a murderer.
You're welcome to chat
You're
all
paying
you
for the
want,
murder of
but you
children.
will not block
I don't know how you
enjoyment
sleep at night,
of
bro.
the process. So intimidation and mischief. How you go?
Thank you.
Can you go in?
Still three of you?
Yeah. Thank you.
So I saw this video on Instagram, and like I said, right underneath this video was that other video that I was desperately trying to search for. So the crowd you see in the background here are protesters to Yuck Yucks holding this event. And Judy Gold here has Jews have used humor as a coping mechanism for thousands of years, and we're not going to let anyone stop us now. Thank you, Toronto, for a sold-out show. Yuck Yucks, not exactly a huge venue, not difficult to do if you know Zionists, apparently. And then just going through some of the comments here, you know, they want to be respected, but do they respect others? I'm very proud of you, Judy. With much decorum and education, you knew how to put those troublemakers in their place. Yeah, people, you know, saying genocide, bad. They need to be put in their place. Thanks for dealing with this and continuing to be a voice of support for the Jewish community. Your podcast gives me immense comfort. This gives me the chills. You're so brave. Yeah. To raise money for the Friends of the IDF, because it's not like people in the IDF don't get paid at all or anything. You know, it's not like they don't get money from Israel. Brava, Rockstar, march on. This is more my, what the fuck? And I'm not talking about the crowd. I'm talking about the show. And just, you know, a lot of people mocking it and that sort of thing. And I'm kind of really hoping that if I keep on scrolling here, I'm going to find that video. Because I kid you not, I was looking for 2 hours before this for that 1.5-minute long video that I can't find on Instagram, which means I don't actually have that much stuff to go over today. Because I was searching so much for this video. I even forgot to eat dinner. So on actually, let's do that. I'm going to go over here. Let's get to her Twitter account. Let's bring that over here. Yeah, so come out tonight for Yuck Yucks Toronto Stand Up for Israel with these 2 people, and this is where I found their names because the poster that I originally saw was too teeny tiny, and I searched their names and I still couldn't find that fucking clip. Scroll down. Where is it? She posted it. I saw it earlier. No? Okay, let's go back up. At least I got the link to this one before I've lost the tweet about it. Or was it actually on her Instagram page? I'm sorry. I'm just like so scatterbrained right now because of this. Anyway, somewhere, I don't know where, I saw her like tweet out. Is it in the replies maybe? It would really bolster my argument if I actually found the tweet where this was. Was it on the Facebook? I'm sorry. Anyway, I saw her somewhere. Tweet out an article headline about this event. Tweet out post somewhere. That's really annoying. Maybe it was under his. Okay, he tweeted it out. Is that even the same article? But yeah, so this was one of the other guys that was at the event with her as a stand-up comedian, and he's always like, yay, comedy wins. Sold out show went on. A lot of great people make this happen. Thank you. You know, they couldn't stop our show, these protesters, you know, referred to as Hamas supporters. Come out tonight for Yuck Yuck stand-up show. Yay! You know, raising money for the Friends of the IDF. But this article here, anti-Israel crowd fails to shut down stand-up Israel comedy fundraiser in Toronto. Which is this? From the National Post. Yes. The National Post, which, for those of you Americans who don't know, this is a right-wing rag. They regularly have anti-trans content, anti-LGBTQ plus content, which, you know, Judy probably doesn't know about, given that she's American. Although she's gay, promoting a magazine that, you know, really dislikes people like her probably, you know, wouldn't necessarily be good. But then just like the framing and everything from this article, you can tell it's a right-wing media organization. Yeah, so anti-Israel crowd fails to shut down Stand Up for Israel comedy fundraiser in Toronto. The event at Yuck Yucks Toronto was a touring fundraiser for Friends of the Israel Defense Forces, which provides support to members of the Israeli military. A Toronto stand-up a Toronto stand-up comedy fundraiser managed to go ahead Wednesday night despite overt attempts by an anti-Israel mob to blockade access and get it canceled. It wasn't an anti-Israel mob. Those people weren't against Israelis in general. They were against what the IDF is doing in Gaza. They're against the genocide. But to say that they're just anti-Israel is pretty racist. Yeah. The event held at Yuck Yucks Toronto was Stand Up for Israel, touring fundraiser. Toronto is one of 27 cities scheduled for the tour, which features comedians Aaron Bragg, Judy Gold, and Richard Voss. In the lead up to the fundraiser, leftist anti-Israel groups issued open calls on social media to have the venue surrounded by demonstrators. Yes. People who are against genocide are also apparently, according to the National Post, anti-Israel. See, this poster would have been better if I saw this poster on Instagram. Join us tonight with your Palestine flags and kiefas, I think, to condemn Yuck Yucks for hosting a fundraiser for the genocidal Israeli occupation force. We keep us safe. Please mask up, bring a friend, don't leave alone. That I would have understood. The other poster was kind of a bit not. So anyway, an Instagram post by the group's Students for Queer Liberation, for instance, circulated a poster headline, "Genocide is no joke." We don't need to know anything about this person here. She took a lot of the footage, but I tried to avoid using her footage for reasons you would have to know who I'm talking about in order to understand. But she's not a honest source to get things from, although she tends to get a lot of good video footage. Anyway, a mass crowd of dozens of people spilled onto the front streets, yelling slogans and insults at patrons lining up to enter, in many cases accusing them of genocide. Oh, they were accusing them of genocide, really? You know, the IDF, you know, recently found by the ICJ to be plausibly committing genocide. Wonder why protesters would get that in their brain. In one instance, said the patrons exiting the neighboring J. Bristow were mistakenly targeted by the mob. Yeah, I doubt that. The men were confused about being labeled genocide enablers and shown images of dead babies, she wrote. We don't need to go through all of this article. Well, the demonstrations did cause a 30-minute delay to the start time to the event, ultimately did proceed to a sold-out crowd. Yeah. So I just wanted to follow up on that. And really, I really wanted that other video because that would have helped with what I was talking about a bit more. Super frustrating. I couldn't find that video. And also just super frustrating to see Judy Gold being one of the people of this stand-up comedy tour. Like, I'm trying to remember that opening clip I saw, and it was more just about him promoting the event and saying that, you know, the money here is going towards the brave people fighting over in Gaza. And just the idea of, like, what is a brave person, IDF member in Gaza? You know, is it brave to drop a bomb on people you're never going to see? To starve an entire population? To cut off water and electricity? To let no medical supplies in? Is that brave? Is that being brave? And, you know, I watch the Majority Report regularly, so I hear people call in and all that sort of stuff. And I think me, like a lot of people, we just can't wrap our heads around how people can be so stuck in this ideology to completely ignore everything we can see. All of the video footage, the first-hand accounts, you know, doctors from Canada going over there, coming back, describing in horrific detail what is happening to the people in the hospitals there. You know, family members losing people, tens of thousands of people killed. And yet they still view Israel as the victims in this, and that this is necessary to keep them safe. It's necessary to flatten all of Gaza in order to keep them safe, and that this is something worth going on a comedy tour for. And it really is. I don't have anyone close to me who would believe in the IDF, who is a Zionist. If I do, then I think they know to keep their mouth shut around me. I don't know how you reach these people. How you explain to them that, no, we're not protesting Israel, we're protesting the genocide happening in Gaza. It really is disturbing. And, you know, I can imagine it can put somebody like Sam Cedar in a bit of a awkward position to have, like, he's very publicly not a Zionist and is against what Israel's doing, and he sees it for what it is. So he's proof that even people in his generation can wake up to the realities of what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. And yet a lot of his close friends and family haven't been able to see that. And, you know, it happens also when people call in or I am the show about TYT and wants Emma to call out, you know, her former friends, her current friends for things that they've said on the show. And I would imagine at some point somebody's going to I am the show, or if Judy Gold goes back on, somebody might I am or call in and say, really? You know, you're going to give a platform to somebody who is doing a fundraiser for the IDF? And I can imagine it'd be very uncomfortable to be a public figure, to have somebody else who's also a public figure be a Zionist and go out and do that, because do you bring that issue between you and your friend, that personal issue, do you bring it on camera? Do you tell people about it? Do you say, again, this is hard for me to understand because I don't know anyone like this. And the people that I tend to have the largest disagreements with, I can usually still have conversations with. And I can work away at it. You know, I can plant seeds. I can get them to grow on things. I've done a lot of work on my own family. And, but to have to publicly defend or con what's defend or call out a close friend of yours, I can imagine it'd be awkward and uncomfortable. But I do know I won't be watching MR when Judy's on anymore. Because I can't support that. I can't. Let's see what the Sandbox is saying. Oh, Looney Tunes. Congratulations on your haircut. I don't cut my hair. Yeah, I don't. This is the natural length of my hair. It's not going to grow any longer. And it's thinning out like crazy. I wish I could get like a hair supplement stuff because it's a genetic thing. My grandmother, you know, she still had color in her hair. Like this is all natural color of what was left, which was just wisps of hair. And I've always wanted longer, thick hair. And I'm worried that I won't have much hair left in the next couple decades. Dino Rancher, whoa, pro IDF comedy. I hate dead baby jokes. Yeah. MIDI doctors, there is some messed up shit in this world. Yes, and we're going to get more to some more of that messed up shit. MIDI doctor, Gold is dead to MR now. Yeah, No, Judy was not on today, BKK. I don't remember the last time she was on. But to see your personal baggage, your personal relationships, your personal issues have to like be public to some extent, I would imagine it's very difficult. Because it's the reason why a lot of content creators, a lot of public figures in general, don't like talking about their partners is they don't want to bring that personal issues to everyone's attention necessarily. Some things they just want to keep private. And if you're having a falling out with a friend, you might just want to keep that private as opposed to having it all over the internet for everyone to see. See, I don't have to worry about talking about my partners on here because I don't have any. And I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon. So I'm free to talk about my cats. And I do talk about my cats a lot. But you know, there's some things that I may have wanted to say that I kind of kept my mouth a little bit quiet on because I was actually surprised to find some people I know watch my content because I figured I was safe, that nobody I was close to, like most of my friends and family are not that political. And I kind of thought none of them were watching my content. And so now that I know some of them are, it's like, huh, maybe I should be a little bit more careful in what I'm saying. And it's not because I'm censoring myself so much, is that there are some things I want to keep private for the sake of who they are, you know? Because sometimes bringing up my personal history, baggage, issues might implicate them sometimes. You know, talking about a story about a friend or something of that sort. That friend might recognize that story, and what do you do then if they feel bad about it? Like, I have no problems saying my 2 ex-boyfriends were assholes because chances are they're not going to see this, and even if they do, they deserve to be called that. So I have no problem with that. But I'm not going to get into the issues that, you know, ultimately ended my relationship with my ex girlfriend because she is a wonderful person. You know, we just weren't compatible, and I don't feel the need to get into the intimate details as to why. And you know, she is an amazing person, although I don't think she watches my content, so but that's not something I would want her to stumble across. And so, yeah, it can be difficult. Like, especially when we're content creators, we're showing you a part of who we are. We're not actors, you know. A lot of the right-wing grifters are putting on a show, but from what I've seen of a lot of the left-wing content creators is we're showing you who we are. These are our values. This is what we stand by. And it's then hard not to develop this kind of parasocial relationship with everyone because you're learning a lot about me, but you're not learning everything about me. And there are some things that I don't want people to know about me. And it's trying to find that balance, but you know, you can. I feel for Emma and Sam when, you know, TYT is brought up or stuff because there's a lot of personal feelings involved with that. But at the same time, you would hope that if they're on the left and progressive and really stand by their values, that they would own up to it and say, yes, this is a dear friend of mine, but I don't agree with them on this. And I actually think these views are horrible. Because at this point, to actively support the IDF, like just incomprehensible to me. Although, like I said, Instagram, Facebook, Meta probably thinks I'm a raging Zionist right now with all the search terms I was putting in. I really wanted to find that video. So Life, we canceled Judy in the Majority Report chat. Yeah. Morbius Dragon, I know the craziness of not being able to find something I watched on YouTube. I watched a funny Elmo video when he was on Jimmy Fallon and I can't find the full clip. Are you looking for the video you watch? Because there is a history in YouTube and I kind of figured there'd be something similar in Instagram, which there isn't. So now in the future, I know that if I see a video on Instagram, I have to like it or comment in some way if I ever want to recall it again, which is super annoying. But YouTube has a history, and you can even search the history. And then you might be able to find the full clip of it from there. Let's see. BKK, National Post kind of gives it away. Yeah. If the National Post ever writes a glowing article about anything with my content or me, I'm sorry I had a stroke. I need help. I need help. If you ever see National Post writing a glowing review of my channel, help me. There's something seriously wrong. I've been taken over by a body snatcher or something. It is, yeah, but Judy being American, she doesn't know that. So where she was, again, I was looking through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm pretty sure she posted like, haha, look at this, you know, National Post headline. Oops, it jumped. Yeah, so unfortunately, since I was searching for that video so much, I have like a few stories to go over. One is going to be in a fair bit of detail, so, you know, we might get to that 2-hour mark that I try to get to around. I say that now, this is probably then going to turn into like a 3-hour long video. Uh, let's see. I know this isn't like interesting content watching me look at chats. Uh, I like to interact with people, so this is easier. That's why, unfortunately, um, unfortunately, when I have somebody else on, I don't read very many chats because I'm engaged with the person because I like interactions. MIDI Doctor, Sam has lost a lot of acquaintances over the years. Yeah, I can imagine. That's part of the struggle with standing true to your values is you lose out on friends, you lose out access to groups. Like there was an improv group in my area that I absolutely adored. And love doing improv. Like it is just a part of me. But something happened there and I had to make a stand. And because of that, I lost a lot of friends and I lost my ability to go to that group, which was so devastating. Like one of my best friends, I haven't spoken to since. And it really hurts sometimes when I think back to it. But you know, when you have these convictions, when you have these values and these truths, it's a test to see how much they matter to you when you're confronted with people that go against everything you stand for. And then do you turn on your values or do you stand up to your friend? I've lost a fair bit too from just not backing down. And sometimes it can be stubborn and all that sort of stuff, but the thing is that I can change my mind if I'm presented with facts and information and all that sort of stuff. I can change my mind. But if you want me to change my mind just because you don't agree with me, that's not a good argument. It's not going to happen. BKK, I don't think she's coming on anymore. Yeah, I can't imagine that she's going to. Yeah. Yeah, it sucks for Sam because there's a lot of people that he talks about that he used to be kind of friendly with that he's not anymore. Because then there was also what is it, Taibbi? Whatever his name was. Matt Taibbi? Matt Taibbi? Yeah, the reporter guy, whatever. Had a bit of a falling out and some other people and stuff. Looney Tunes 9000. Sandy, did you watch Dan explode about TYT on Power Report last night? That shit was great. I didn't watch all of it. I was a bit tired, so I went to bed early because keep in mind, he goes pretty late for Eastern Standard Time. But I do plan on going back and watching the rest of it. So, because Dan is wonderful. He really is. I really loved having him on my show. He always has amazing insight and stuff. I just personally I don't like a lot of yelling like that. I can handle some, but I get very uncomfortable with that amount of yelling. And it's a personal baggage thing from childhood. I can handle yelling to an extent. However, if that person is yelling at me, that's very different, and I have a zero tolerance for that. Yeah, in my relationships, we never yelled at each other, even in our arguments, because that is not something I would ever put up with, is being yelled at by anyone. So even though Dan wasn't yelling at me, I can still get uncomfortable with it to some extent. But I do plan on going back and watching the rest of what I missed. Christy said, I would end a friendship if a friend told me they supported Netanyahu and the IDF. Deadass, I'd have to. The only reason why I wouldn't is if I thought they could be moved on it. Like if I thought, okay, if I stay friends with them and I really kind of plant the seeds and stuff, but at some point, if it became obvious that's not going to happen, then no, then no. I can't be friends with somebody that would support a genocide. It's just no, no. Yeah. Morbius Dragon, I've been searching for it for a year now. I think it was removed. The only videos that are on YouTube are very short clips, not the full video. Maybe someday it will be put back on. Well, if it was from the actual late show or something like that, then it might not be on, because sometimes they only go on because they were pirated on, but then they get stricken off and that sort of stuff because they don't post their stuff for free on YouTube. But part of my struggle with doing content creating, and this was well before I was doing live streams, was I would remember an article or something that I had seen, and I have a very good recall of information. However, I don't like to present that information unless I can find the source to back it up. I don't want people to just have to take my word for it. But like, I can't remember a person's name or face, but I can remember a conversation. And I can remember information I've come across, a video or something, but I might not remember who said it in the video. I just remember the information. And so sometimes when I've been putting together a video, there's that clip or that article that I really want to find because it's like, oh, that would help bolster it. And then people know that I'm not just talking out of my ass. And then I can't. I have spent hours looking through my Twitter feed for something that I liked once upon a time. And the thing is that I like so much stuff on Twitter. It is ridiculous how much stuff I like, because I like things as a way to bookmark it. I like things because I'm supporting a friend, or I like the comment, or I'm trying to boost something. And I have tens of thousands of likes of things. And so then there would be something that's like, oh yeah, like a month ago, there was this comment that led to an article that I really need for this. I've spent an hour scrolling back. Like literally when I look away from my screen, my eyes are doing this. Like I have to settle my eyes because they're bouncing. And it's a really frustrating habit to have. Like one thing I still plan on doing was having a live stream devoted solely to the talk of mental health and the crisis of people wanting to unalive themselves. And I remember it's like, oh, there were videos that I saw on Democracy Now! About it. And I searched like hell for them. And I found it at least. So when I do that video, I have the videos to go over for that. Let's see. Before we get back onto it, I'm just going to get caught up in this. Soul Life, I lost a good friend of 15 years because she became a racist Trumper. And it happened 2 hours from home at a hotel in Wildwood in my B-Day. It was awkward as AF. Yeah. No, to have lost my friends from the improv for the reason I lost them, and to see them support the other person, it's kind of devastating. Yeah. I just... And, you know, at least I think I'm getting through to my family. Christy said, I don't do well with yelling around me, and I'm even worse with yelling at me. Don't do that. Yeah, it's the same. Like, Let's talk about the Majority Report again in context. Sam, when he's on the phone and he's yelling at a libertarian or something like that, I find that really fun. Not gonna lie, that's I enjoy that. Um, but if I'm in like a domestic situation, like I'm at somebody's house and family members are yelling at each other, that's a hard no. Like I would have to remove myself from the situation. I can't handle it. And if anyone is yelling at me, no, no, that would end relationships, no matter the type of relationship it is. But also if I'm in a situation like a sports bar and there's a game going on and then suddenly the room will start yelling because of a goal or something, I can't handle that either. Like just random yelling, people yelling on the street, I get really, really uncomfortable with that. But if somebody like Sam is yelling in defense of somebody on his show or something like that, it's like, yeah, I can get behind that. Seeing people who usually keep their cool lose it a little bit, it can be fun. But also, it benefits the people around me in a way, like with my nibblings. I think at this point they know if I ever yell at them, it's because they're in danger. Like, I'm not going to yell at them because I'm mad at them. The only reason why I would yell at them is to alert them to something. And I think that would be very reassuring for people. Like if that's the only time they were being yelled at is to be alerted about something, then I think, yeah, it would be a lot more doable. Morbius Dragon, my cousin is a Trump follower and I don't talk to her. Maybe one day she'll realize that she's following a horrible person. Then I'll start talking to her again. It's hard when it's family, especially, if it's family that you meet up with every now and then and all that sort of stuff. Like I cut my family out from my life in my early 20s for, other personal reasons. So for me to not go to a family event, it's not a big deal. I have some family that I still am connected with, and that's good enough for me. But I'm at peace with where I am with my other family members, and that I probably won't speak to them ever again. And I'm fine with that. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people don't get there. Okay. Let's get back to this. Okay, so there was something else about Gaza that I wanted to cover. So, still my main source. Oh, right, it's Twitter now. I can do this. Make it bigger for everyone to see. This caught my eye. The office building of Ennabel, the Belgian Agency for Development Corporation in Gaza, has been bombed and is completely destroyed. Attacking civilian buildings is and remains totally unacceptable. Together with, I will summon the Israeli ambassador. So here we have before and after. So again, whenever I see things like this, I like to check to make sure that it's not a one-off, that it's not somebody reporting something, but this person here Belgian Minister for Foreign Affairs, European Affairs, Foreign Trade, and the Federal Cultural Institutions. Okay. So she says, I have just summoned the Israeli ambassador to express our strong condemnation of the destruction of Ennabel offices in Gaza. Attack on civilian infrastructure breach the principles of international humanitarian law. All parties must adhere to it. So, civilian structure in Gaza being destroyed. Now, why was this building destroyed? One might wonder. It's like, oh, did they misfire? Was it an accident? Like they've done so many accidents hitting hospitals and stuff before. Like, it seems pretty egregious that the IDF would just accidentally hit this civilian foreign building, like a building that is Belgian. What were there tunnels under there? Was Hamas working out of Belgium? Like, what excuse could they possibly have? Like, was it an accident? I don't know. Oh, what's this? The Brussels Times. Belgium to keep funding UNRWA pending investigation. Huh. Yeah. So apparently, back when my country and several other Western countries decided to suddenly stop funding UNRWA because of an alleged 12 people being involved with Hamas out of an organization of tens of thousands, and the primary way that relief and aid and food is distributed to the people in Gaza. Because of an alleged 12 people, they've cut their funding to that vital life-saving organization. Belgium didn't. No, they're keeping their funding pending the investigation, which is what they all should have actually said. Like, you can investigate them, but to cut off funding at a time like this because of an alleged involvement of 12 people who don't represent, like, they aren't representatives of UNRWA, they just work there, like, really? And then Belgium's building just happens to get bombed? Huh. That's an awful big coincidence. Like, really big coincidence. Yeah. Uh-huh. And still, where is Canada on this? What is my country saying about it? Are they saying, oh, that was horrible, that, the IDF bombed this Belgian building, and we're also going to take our ambassadors back? And where's the United States saying that was totally unacceptable, that this, building, this institute that is definitely not part of Hamas, that it was also bombed? Where's the condemnation for that? It is literally to the point now the IDF can just target whomever they want in Gaza without any repercussions from my government, from the United States. Nothing. They have free reign to do whatever they want, despite the ICJ ruling. Because this happened after all of that. Totally unacceptable. And it again is just so shameful of my country, so disappointing that even now they can't say anything to really call out Israel for what they're doing. In fact, we have politicians that do this. No, that is the wrong tweet. That was such a good lead-in. Let's go. Where is it? Oh, it's this one. Okay. We have politicians like this. NDP Minister Selena Robinson justifying genocide by calling Palestine a crappy piece of land with nothing on it. Hateful, bigoted remarks that should result in her immediate resignation. At Dave Eby, who is the Premier of BC, so she is an MPP for BC, and she is part of the NDP, which is Canada's leftist party. but not in BC. They're not a leftist party in BC. I've actually covered them before on some stuff. They're closer to conservative than they are to liberals on some issues, on some on some very important issues. But let's just hear what she has to say.
We have a whole generation, and we know from the data that it's 18 to 34-year-olds that have no idea about the Holocaust. They don't even think it happened. They don't even understand that Israel was offered to the Jews who were displaced. So they have no connection to how it started. They don't understand that it was a crappy piece of land with nothing on it.
A crappy piece of land with nothing on it. I imagine the people who were living there would beg to differ on that.
There were several 100,000 people, but other than that,
yeah. Well, there were several 100,000 people, but other than that, it was pretty crappy land.
It didn't produce an economy. It couldn't grow things. It didn't have anything on it. And that it was the folks who were displaced that came, and the people who had been living there for generations, and together they worked hard, and
yes, the folks who were displaced, they worked hard on that land. The folks who were kicked off of it
had their own battles, right? We know the history. We have a whole generation, and we know from the data that.
And she still has a job. She's still part of the NDP. And you all remember Sarah Jama, who I've covered on my channel quite extensively, an Ontario NDP MPP, who got kicked out of her caucus for saying that Palestinian lives matter. And yet you have one here saying that Palestine was a crappy piece of land with nothing on it. Just, 100,000 people or so. But, they don't matter when the land was given to them anyway. Because that's how it worked out. They just arrived there and the land was peacefully given to them, is how they like to frame it. No. Yeah. And just Joy Henderson saying, we wonder why the NDP and the BC NDP have such a shitty track record in working with Indigenous folks, because folks like Selena Robinson are allowed to continue to spread their racist colonizer rhetoric. Yeah. She needs to resign. Absolutely, no doubt about it. She needs to resign. That is just unacceptable language, and the fact that, she probably won't face any consequences for this. Because, again, she's not saying that Palestinian lives matter, because that is too egregious for, NDP to accept. But that's who we have in office. Like, no wonder Canada is what we are, because we're a colonizer country. Our government was designed to support settler colonialism. Like, it was set up to maintain that, to strengthen it. So is it any wonder that when another country is doing settler colonialism, this country is standing by like, yeah, I don't see anything wrong here. Nothing. But this was another thing I was going to go over. In the case of the Rohingyas in Myanmar, Canada argued that starvation was genocide. The fact that the Liberals won't apply the same logic to Israel's siege on Gaza exposes Canada's double standard. Yeah, so we're okay when Belgian buildings get bombed in Gaza. But, we won't say anything about that. But we will say something about some genocides when it doesn't really have to do with maintaining the Western settler colonialism. Let's take a listen.
I think that our world, for lots of different reasons, is full of double standards. But I think there's just this huge gap between the way that Canada presents itself as fighting against that and the fact that on so many occasions, it actually furthers those double standards. And I think there's two egregious examples of that. Palestine is one. Israel, Palestine. The fact that that Canada has never supported an investigation by the ICC, and in fact attacked the International Criminal Court previously for its investigations in Palestine, and its now meandering, non-committal support of the International Court of Justice. So that's one, and I think it just evokes a clear set of double standards when Canada is doing the exact opposite in relation to Ukraine and indeed in Myanmar. In the Myanmar case over alleged genocide against the Rohingya, Canada actually said a lot of really interesting and important things. It said, for example, that genocide is not just the killing of people. It's not just this kind of pageantry of mass murder. It is also starvation. And so a lot of people
Something this country is very guilty of doing to Indigenous peoples.
have said, look, if you wanted to, you could just copy and paste that and put it into a case supporting South Africa, if indeed Canada wanted to, because the point that South Africa is making is the same. That yes, there are killings, there's a horrific number of people dead, but I think if you read their filing, the real core central issue is this structural systemic violence through the siege, through the blockade, and so on and so forth, that has led to people dying through things like starvation or otherwise things that they would survive from, clean water, etc. They just don't have it. Obviously, the second thing that I think exposes Canada's double standards, and it's for another conversation some other time, is of course that we have yet to address or remedy the genocide that Canada has committed here against Indigenous peoples.
Yeah, it's hard for this country to call out genocides in other places when this country is guilty of it. Let's see. I think I wanted this tab on a different thing. But let's just a little bit more positive news on this. Breaking: Port of Vancouver blockades calls immediate arms embargo on Israel. We are completely blocking the Port of Vancouver at all entrances to refuse business as usual during an ongoing genocide in Palestine. Canada must stop arming genocide. Hell yeah. That's what we need more of here. We're sending a lot of non-lethal weapons to Israel. We need to stop that. Blockade, protest the manufacturers, but we need to step up and fight back against this, because sending Israel any support in weapons and money right now, you can't use the excuse you don't know what they're going to use it for. There's no doubt about it, it's going to be used towards genocide. And if you send it, then you are an accomplice. I couldn't imagine just sending something over knowing that it's going to be used to just kill people. Disgusting. Okay, so that's the Gaza stuff, and then I have a whole bunch of other stuff to cover. Lots of queer news. So we'll get into that. Just check the Sandbox. Let's see. BKK, I get it though. I get the rage, but yes, it's anxiety inducing. Yeah. No, I can understand losing it from time to time. It's the thing with Dan last night though was how long it was maintained, because I can handle it, outbursts here and there, and kind of feel, oh, what's the word, cathartic with it, but when it's so sustained, it gets me uncomfortable. Although, to be fair, I do yell at my cats because but they don't understand what I'm saying. and they're babies, and they still get into so much trouble. Ah. Christy said Spain isn't going to stop either. I guess they're not going to stop sending money to UNRWA, which is good. Yep, Spain has boosted funding, says Medi Doctors. BKK, oh my OMFG, what an absolute ghoul. I'm talking about that MPP there. Yeah, just absolutely horrible. We're going to get into a worse politician in just a moment. But yeah, she's going to keep her job. That white woman there, she's going to keep her job for, you know, saying horrendous things about Palestinians. But Sarah Jama, a black woman, saying something in support of Palestinians. Well, can't let that slide, can we? Looney Tunes 9000, not just Canada, Sandy, the US as well. Yes, we are in all of this together. Our countries. Ah. Okay, let's get on to no, I was going to save I hate how YouTube, whenever it refreshes the page, as soon as you click on it, it starts to play automatically when I don't want it to. Because I want to get to this first. So Project 2024, for those of you who don't know, is kind of the outline of what the Republicans want to do should they get in power again in the States. And it is horrendous. It is horrific. It is just absolutely genocidal towards queer people, trans people in particular. Mike from the Humanist Report did a very good video on it. I feel everyone should go check it out. But for quite some time on state level, they've been passing just absolutely shocking laws against queer people. And there's a couple of people on Twitter who have been keeping tabs on it. And whenever you think it can't, like that is horrible, that's the worst, something else comes out. And then something else comes out. And it starts to really, there is no limit. They're starting to feel free to pass whatever law they want as long as it's against queer people. And they're emboldened because where's the pushback? Rarely ever do I see the Democrats, calling out the Republicans for what they're doing with their horrendous bills and legislation that they're passing. Like, I don't see Biden calling out a state for passing draconian laws. If he has, my apologies. I haven't seen the video, but I can't recall any. And the less that they're called out by all these Democrat politicians, the freer they feel. And they're getting bolder with their language, with their laws. And it shouldn't just be terrifying for people who are queer, because it's not going to stop there. Like, you shouldn't just care that it's going to destroy the lives of queer folks, but it's not going to stop there. And we all know the horrendous laws and the treatment of Black people in the States as well. People living with disabilities. Like, it's just, they're never going to just pick one group to erase from public life. That's not what genocidal campaigns do. They don't just pick one. So let's get to this. So from Erin Reed, Erin in the Morning, please go check out her Substack if you can. She does just an absolutely amazing job keeping tabs on this. I don't know how her soul can handle it. In a stunning audio release, Michigan and Ohio Republicans are heard stating that the end game of anti-trans legislation is to ban trans care for everyone. They discuss exactly how they plan to do it, piece by piece, incrementally. Subscribe to her work. The audio is stunning and comes after a Twitter space was automatically posted to the host page. It features Representative Gary Click from Ohio, heavily the sponsor of the state's infamous gender-affirming care ban. In the space, Rep. Shriver at 49 minutes in asks, in terms of endgame, why not apply trans bill to anyone over 18? Click response confirming the plan. That's smart, though. That's a smart thought. We have to do it in small bits. Or is it bites? In small bites, they continue. Click then responds stating Ohio's restrictions will put a stop to Planned Parenthood clinics. The other thing, Planned Parenthood, they pass out hormones like candy. He's put a stop to that. We need to slow down the end game. Horrible, horrible stuff. Transgender adults in Florida are blindsided that a new law also limits their access to health care. They're being open with it now. They're not being careful. They're not being cautious. It's not like they're ever going to come out publicly and say, oh, we were misinterpreted with what we said. You know, they're not going to try to put some space between themselves and these comments. They don't have to anymore. Like there was a time where they could say, oh, that was private musings, that was this, or we were talking about something else and it was misinterpreted. Now they just don't say anything. Because that's the goal. That's what they want to do. And from Erin Reed, House Bill 257 has just passed in Utah. It will go back to the House for concurrence. It will ban trans youth from bathrooms, trans adults from changing rooms, and would end legal recognition of trans people in much of law. A sad day for Utah trans people. Every trans person has had issues going to the washroom in public, finding a public washroom that they could go to. Every trans person at some point has felt afraid, worried, not safe going into the washroom of their gender. They're also afraid, worried, and not safe if they go into the washroom that they don't identify with, which really effectively bans them from public life, because if you can't go out in public to use the washroom, like if you're out shopping or things of that sort, it will scare you into staying home because you don't want to take that chance. So you're not going out as often unless you know you're going to have access to a washroom. Like the whole idea of gendered washrooms too, they don't make much sense because they're stalls. You know, you go in, you do your stuff. The only reason why a lot of kids would make a big deal of it right now if you just switch over is because it's such a novel thing. And so much emphasis and attention was put to it and discussion and stuff. But really, like, what household have you ever been to that had washrooms separated by gender? A toilet is a toilet, you know? It serves the same purpose. You know, it still just gets full of shit in there. Like, it's just, I can understand the need for changing rooms a little bit more to have some separation there. That makes sense. But for washrooms with stalls or washrooms that are even just like there's just the one toilet and you lock the door, like those there's no reason why they need to be gendered, and yet they are. I will admit, I've gone into the men's restroom plenty of times when the lineup into the women's restroom has been very long and there's no lineup for the men's restroom. And it is those cases of it's just a toilet in a room with the door locked. Like, it's a toilet. I can lock the door. Nobody's peeking. It's fine. It's not like I don't know. What are people afraid of? Like, what? Because I remember going into this one washroom. I was at a truck stop, and some of the women watched me go in, and she's like, "Oh, I wish I was brave enough to do that." And it's like, what do you think will happen to you in a room with no other people and a toilet that just happens to be a men's restroom? Like, will you suddenly come out with like a deeper voice? It's just, is that how men's restrooms work? They affirm gender? Yeah, gender affirming washrooms. This one from Alejandra Caraballo, also fantastic on Twitter, keeps up to date with so much stuff. Again, I don't know how her soul can take all of the news that she covers, because especially with like Alejandra and Aaron, it's so personal to them. And to see this happening to people like them, their friends, their community, and feeling so helpless, to just be so absorbed in it day after day. I don't know how they do it. They're some of the strongest people I can think of, you know, being there, reporting on it so that people outside of their bubble knows what's going on. And it's important, so important, that they're reporting on this and they're getting this information out there. So she says the cruelty is the point. They're criminalizing trans existence in the state of Florida. Apparently, transgender people in Florida face having their driver's license revoked. So apparently you need to have the gender assigned to you at birth on your driver's license. And if you don't, then it will get revoked. Huh. So I guess I will never be able to travel to Florida because my license, my passport has my gender, which is X, which I was not assigned at birth. Oh my God. I'm just looking at Live on X. I'm like, my gender feels like a brand from Elon Musk right now. Gender X. Yeah, this whole platform now, Twitter is just for me. People like me. Yeah. Elon is just, he should have just stuck with Twitter. As far as I know, there's no Twitter gender. It's like there's a better joke in there, I know, but I need to put some thought into it in order to have like, oh, live on X, and somehow mix that in with my gender on my passport and license. It's like, what, my license is now Twitter branded? There's a better joke in there, okay? I can find a lot of my humor when I write it out because it slows my brain down. Unless I'm doing improv, but when you're doing improv, it's a different brain frame. Whatever. We'll move on. Like I said, I'm still in a weird headspace from trying earlier to desperately find that one little video clip. And the serves from raiding gay bars to banning trans people simply for existing, the targeting of LGBTQ plus people is ramping up. Seattle gay bars raided over lewd conduct violations. This is one that was just covered. Aaron Reed, these laws include a criminal bathroom ban by which people can be arrested in many public buildings if they use the incorrect bathroom. By disallowing and outlawing gender markers changes, they could conceivably ID people accused of being trans in the bathroom. So Florida is set to arrest people in restrooms regardless of legal gender status in sweeping bill. So, yeah. And it's not just in the States. Breaking labor will ban trans women from female hospital wards, says Wes Streeting. Labor, so this is over in the UK, I believe. Labor would ban all trans patients from single-sex wards, instead putting them in separate wards solely for trans people. Streeting says this is a priority for Labor. Yes. Singling people out is a priority and making them feel horrible. There was a little bit of good news that Aaron reported on, so move to that. A bill removing trans civil rights protections was defeated in Iowa today, one of the first major victories against anti-trans legislation in 2024. Hundreds showed up against the bill, only 3 spoke in favor. Let's look at how it happened. Subscribe to our work. So, bill removing trans civil rights protections defeated in Iowa. So, that's the thing. Like, I still believe that there's more good people out there than bad. It's just a lot of people are completely unaware of what's happening. You know, a lot of people who maybe don't have queer friends, trans friends, family members, they don't think about it. Like, they just simply don't think about it. So they have no idea how bad it's getting. They don't come across these news articles. They don't follow people like Aaron and Alejandra on Twitter. They're not in those bubbles, so they don't know everything that's happening. And I felt like if more people knew what was going on, they would care and they would come out and they would stand up and they would do things against, you know, these laws stripping people's rights away. Because, as my friend said, it's not so much that the right wing is getting bigger, they're just becoming louder and more hateful. So there's actually far more accepting people out there. The vast majority of people are just they fall in that category of they don't care. Like, it's just, they don't care. It's not something that they ever think of. They don't think of trans people. They don't think of queer people. That's probably the largest category. But with the rhetoric out there, a lot of people might be thinking that the right is growing, that it's becoming much, much bigger, when in actuality, it's just that they're becoming stronger. That small group of people is becoming stronger and louder, and they have more power. And that's where the problem comes in. But to move on to Canada and how this is affecting Canada, because of course it's affecting Canada, because of course you Americans can't keep anything to yourself, can ya? No, this is why I say we need more cross-border solidarity, because you sure are sending your right-wing views up here. Okay, we are innocent of, you know, we send you a lot of our right-wing views too, you know. We sent you Jordan Peterson, Steven Crowder, you know. It's not like we're completely innocent in that. We do a lot of cross-border exchange of right-wing bigots and ideology. But the amount of Canadians that want Trump for prime minister is rather disturbing, especially when it's coming from a premier of a province. Let's go to this. It looks right. Okay. So Premier Danielle Smith is the Conservative leader of the province of Alberta, province that I have featured quite prominently on this channel for all the wrong reasons. So she's done something horrible, completely horrible, in what she's doing to her province. So Alberta Premier Danielle Smith defends new gender policy amid criticism. Let's listen to what she has to say.
Well, good afternoon, and thanks to everyone for joining me today. Yesterday, I released a video in which I laid out our government's policy direction on the issues of preserving the choices children have regarding their gender identity until
I was
they
playing
are
that
mature enough
really
to make them.
too fast.
Policies to which I laid out our government's policy direction on the issues of preserving the choices children have regarding their gender identity until they are mature enough to make them. Policies to better involve parents in their children's education on sensitive issues, and finally, policies addressing the issue of women, girls, and transgender athletes in competitive sports.
It's always women's sports, trans women in sports. They never, ever say anything about trans men in sports. So, you know, when you do that towards one gender and not the other gender, and you don't treat them equally, that's called discrimination. Not that I want trans men to be treated that way. I don't. It's, the focus on trans women is discriminatory all in its own. And what they're trying to do to trans women and not allow them on sports is discriminatory and also coming from a place of ignorance. Well, we'll get into it.
These are sensitive conversations involving children, and I hope we can depoliticize these issues as much as possible as we
Depoliticize it, she says, as she's politicizing the hell out of it.
work through the process of implementing these policies into law and regulation in a fair and effective way.
Yeah, let's depoliticize these things by making it laws.
I want to start by saying that every Albertan who identifies as transgender, I care deeply about your happiness and your well-being. I support you in becoming the person that you want to be or who you already are. And as Premier of this province, I will...
Sorry, that's just really gross. Considering what she's done to sit there and say like, oh, but I really love you and I'm doing this because I love you.
ensure your rights are always protected. For children who identify as transgender, I want you to also know that these policies are being implemented in order to protect the choices you have regarding altering your physical body until after you've grown mature enough to make such choices safely.
So it's about protecting your choices by removing your choices.
And with a full understanding of what that means for the rest of your life. These policies include a prohibition on gender reassignment surgeries for minors aged
That was never a thing.
17 and under. For children aged 15 and under, puberty blockers and hormone therapies for the purpose of gender reassignment will also not be permitted. With the
For the purpose of gender reassignment will not be permitted because puberty blockers are used for other reasons, which again, if you single out this one specific healthcare reason, that's discrimination. You can't do that. And unlike puberty blockers are completely reversible.
the exception of those who've already commenced their treatment at this time. For minors aged 16 and 17 who wish to start hormone therapies for gender reassignment purposes, this will be permitted with parental, physician, and psychologist approval and consent. Alberta,
If you can find a psychologist that will help you go through this process.
Alberta's government is also working to attract specialists in gender reassignment surgeries and care to Alberta to assist adults who have a wish to transition, and we plan to build a private registry of these experts to support their lifelong health needs.
We'll set up private clinics for this. Of course.
In our classrooms, we will ensure discussions about gender identity and other sensitive subjects happen at the right time and with the parent-child relationship
The right time being never at all, according to her.
at its core. This will include a parental opt-in consent requirement when teachers plan to discuss subject matter related to gender identity, sexual orientation, or sexuality for K-12 students. Further, children aged 15 and under will require parental notification and consent before their name or pronouns are changed in school. For minors aged 16.
And they mean that unofficially too. So if a child is too afraid to actually say something at home, to come out to their parents because of the potential for abuse, then the teachers aren't allowed to respect that child's gender identity in school unofficially as well. That's what these provinces are doing.
15 and 17. Parental consent won't be required for this, but parents will have to be notified.
Yeah. So for, the 15 to 17, you don't need your parents' permission, but we'll tattle on you. We'll tattle.
We will support families with a new pilot program to provide counseling services for families in need to assist with navigating these issues together. In rare circumstances, when transgender children experience an abusive parent, there are, of course, child protection.
Rare circumstances?
Together. In rare circumstances, when transgender children experience an abusive parent, there are.
Rare. Then why is it there's a disproportionate amount of trans and queer youth in shelter systems? Why is it that most of the people I know have had issues, fear, abuse coming out to their parents? Some adults who still haven't come out to their parents about being queer. It's not rare for trans youth to be rejected, abused, harassed, abandoned by their parents. And to single out those kids that are afraid to go to their parents, the most vulnerable kids, and make bills, legislation based on them is cruel. It is so cruel. It's not about keeping children safe. This does the opposite, and we always say this over and over. It does the opposite. But they never listen to us. It's all about the parental rights. It's not. Parents have responsibilities, and we'll get into that in a little bit with a devastating TikTok.
Of course, child protection laws that will be enforced. And lastly, we are implementing policies to protect fairness and safety in women's and girls' sports. We will work with sporting organizations to ensure that women and girls have a choice to participate in competitive sport without having to compete against biologically stronger transgender women athletes.
Biologically stronger transgender athletes. Okay, if a child gets their puberty, their proper puberty, the difference between a trans woman and a cis woman are virtually nil. Like, there's almost no difference other than their actual sex organs. They don't build the same muscle mass, they don't build the same bone structure. And what they're trying to do by banning children from getting care as a teenager is to deny them the ability to live in a body that better reflects who they are. To make it so that they won't fit in necessarily. And as has been proven over and over again, after a few years of hormones, the difference between a trans woman and a cis woman falls within the range of normal differences. I, as someone who was assigned female at birth, am particularly strong. I've never taken hormones, but you know, I would beat most women my age in an arm wrestle fairly easily before I've even started to work out again. And that includes my trans women friend. It's and again, it's not like there's this wave of trans women getting onto sports so that they can win. This is such a small few people to make legislation about it, to make your whole party about it. It's there's other things that they should be worried about, like the fact they can't get any doctors in Alberta, let alone specialists for this. It's just to make your whole ideology about singling out such a small group of people and targeting them like this, just you're evil. The cruelty is the point, and then there's no reason for it other than you're trying to rile up your hateful base.
While also ensuring that we work with those same organizations to expand co-ed and gender-neutral categories so that every transgender athlete can meaningfully participate in the sports that they love. Gender identity can be a very emotional issue, especially in the context of children. And as we move forward developing and implementing these policies into law, I hope we can depoliticize the issue as much as possible and focus on the well-being of the children involved. Thank you. I'd be happy to take questions.
Depoliticize it. And also, she didn't actually work with queer organizations. She didn't confer with them. She didn't get any advice from them. This is all just passing the legislation bullshit that they want. But let's continue with this because it gets there's more to this. There's more.
For children who identify as transgender, I want you to also know that these policies are being implemented in order to protect the choices you have regarding altering your
The choices you have by taking them away. Yeah. Okay, let's get to the actual news report here.
But Luca Roger Duncan isn't so sure. At 25, he remembers very well what it was like to be a transgendered teen.
In her statement, she says, we want these kids to know that they're loved, but in doing what she's doing and in saying what she's saying, she's implying that that love is in fact conditional.
Alberta is the third Canadian province to introduce a policy on parental rights when it comes to gender identity.
Ontario also wants to do this.
Alberta, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick now require parental consent for students under the age of 16 who want to change their name or pronouns.
Now, they say changes to name or gender identity. And again, what they're not saying here is that also unofficially, teachers aren't allowed to use the proper gender of trans kids unless they have parental consent. Like not even unofficially in class so that they can feel safe. And also Saskatchewan was sued by organizations because it is a violation of the Charters of Rights and Freedoms. And Scott Moe passed the notwithstanding clause to override that. Because in Canada, we have that option. Politicians have that option of saying, we understand we're violating your Charters of Rights and Freedoms, but we don't care.
But Alberta has taken its measures further, banning hormonal treatment and puberty blockers for children under 16 and prohibiting gender-reaffirming surgery for those 17 and under.
I certainly do not want children to be making decisions before maybe they've even had sex.
But physicians who...
What the fuck? Like, okay, this is just me reenacting my actual reaction to when I saw this video first. I actually, like, what the fuck did she just say?
17 and under.
I certainly do not want children to be making decisions before maybe they've even had sex.
But physicians...
Why are you that concerned about children's sex lives? before you can have before you can have bottom surgery, you need to test out that sex first to see if you enjoy it the way it is, because that's what this is about, isn't it? It's about how you like your sex, isn't it, kid? Oh. Now it got cut off there. So maybe it's out of context. I found a little bit of a longer clip. We'll get to this after. It's not bad. No, it's horrible. It's horrible that she would be that concerned about children's sex lives.
Who work with the transgender community say they were not consulted.
We have guidelines, we have science, we have everything backing up the decisions we make. So it's not a place of a premier or a political party to tell us what to do medically.
The policy is not enforceable until it becomes legislation. When that happens, EGAL Canada plans to challenge the new laws in court.
It's deeply troubling that Alberta has taken this decision because it amounts to an attempt to erase gender diverse people from society.
Those applauding Alberta's policy are calling it an important first step.
The cult, the insanity that's been sweeping the culture with this transgender ideology, the theory of gender identity, the theory of gender expression, it's collapsing before our eyes, and thank goodness.
Roger Duncan has a different message for transgender youth.
I would tell them that it's scary and it's okay to feel sad and angry and grieve.
He says he's proof that transgender people exist, have a voice, and that as a community, that voice will be heard.
And Heather's with me now. Heather, Premier Smith says she doesn't want to politicize this whole issue. Her critics say that's exactly what she's doing. How much of this is pandering to social conservatives who helped get her elected?
Yeah, Donna, you really can't ignore how Danielle Smith became premier. She claimed the party leadership after appealing to the most socially conservative faction of the UCP and was then elected by sweeping the most conservative rural ridings. So this was a legislation, this was a policy that was very popular at the UCP's most recent AGM. And given the experience of Jason Kenney, who lost party support after angering those social conservatives, you can really see the politics at play. Donna?
All right, Heather Yurix, West in Calgary.
Okay, so about that statement of Danielle Smith, worried that children might want to change their gender before they try out sex to see if they like it. There is a little bit of a longer clip on that.
I support the journey.
And unfortunately, it's a YouTube minute. I call them YouTube minutes still. A YouTube short, which looks really stupid on the screen. Let's go to this setup. It still looks silly. Oops.
I support the journey.
And you can't really control it much. YouTube shorts are stupid, but this is the fuller statement. And so I'm trying my best to pause it as quickly as I can and stuff.
Journey of adults who want to transition to another gender as far as they are adults.
Darn it, you can't go backwards on these. So yeah, she's saying, oh yeah, if you're an adult, I totally support your decision after you've gone through irreversible puberty in the gender that wasn't right for you, then you can transition. As opposed to, going through the proper untraumatic puberty.
Adults and able to accept the consequences of those decisions. I certainly do not want children to be making decisions before maybe they've even had sex.
That's where she's at. Before maybe they even have sex. You're the premier of a province. There's cameras in front of you. You do know they're recording. My God, to say this in front of people. Maybe they've even had sex. Like, your gender has nothing to do with your sexuality. People aren't transitioning because they think they might like the sex better. They're transitioning because of their gender. It's not the same thing. people don't transition because they think the sex will be better.
About whether they want to stop that aspect of their life, or before they've even
Okay, so again, it's hard because this is a YouTube short, but basically,
contemplated whether
there's no
they
way
wanna-
to go back. So what she just said is, you know, before they've even contemplated if, basically she thinks once you've transitioned, you can't have sex. Is what we're saying. We might have to watch this again, just so we watch it in full, because I keep on cutting it off. It is a YouTube short, so we'll watch it again after I've done interrupting. But she just basically said that, you know, before they decided about sex. So from what I'm gathering, she doesn't understand that transgender people, they still get laid, they still get sex, they still have intimacy like that. Go to any porn site to find that out the easy way.
have kids to cut off.
So maybe they haven't even thought about having kids at that point. There are ways to transition and still have biological babies if that's what your desire is. But there's always this push that, you know, what about the kids? What about kids? Believe me, when people are transitioning, that's all the doctors talk about. Doctors are still very old-fashioned when it comes to people and having babies. And so many people, women I know of in their 30s who had kids, their doctors would still refuse to tie their tubes because they might change their mind. Okay. I can assure you that anyone who is transitioning has thought this out and have figured out how much of a transition they want to go to. If they were assigned male at birth and they have sperm, you know, maybe keep some of that you know, in a bank so that they can have biological children later and all that sort. Like, people don't just transition on a whim. They've thought this through. You don't need to pat them on the head and tell them that you're looking after them, that you're doing what's in their best interest, because only they know what's in their best interest, not you, not the government.
Off that aspect of their life. I think that as adults, we have an obligation to ensure for kids that they preserve all of those important choices until they're adults, until they're able to make those decisions.
I knew since I was about 16, I never wanted kids. Because you know that at that age. You can have that idea. Like, some people might not be sure, but there are some people who definitely know they want kids, and there are some people who definitely know they don't. Like, when you're a teenager, you are expected to make decisions that will affect the rest of your life. Like what college you go to, what jobs you have, the type of relationships you have, if you join the military and all that sort of stuff. You're expected at that age to already be making decisions that will have far-reaching consequences in your life. But suddenly now, when it comes to gender, you're incapable of making those decisions. Oh, and by the way, if you get pregnant, then you have to carry that baby and be a parent. Just ridiculous.
With the maturity that goes along with that.
Okay, so we'll watch this again without me interrupting it so that you can hear it smoothly.
I support the journey of adults who want to transition to another gender as far as they are adults and able to accept the consequences of those decisions. I certainly do not want children to be making decisions before maybe they've even had sex about whether they want to stop that aspect of their life, or before they've even contemplated whether they want to have kids, to cut off that aspect of their life. I think that as adults, we have an obligation to ensure for kids that they preserve all of those important choices until they're adults, until they're able to make those decisions with the maturity that goes along with that.
So listen up, kids. We want you having sex before you make any decisions like this. Ooh. an adult being that invested in the sex life of like just other people in general, let alone like, well, kids might not have had sex yet, so they might like it. You know, they might like having sex. And so, you know, transitioning might disturb that. Again, she thinks that after you've transitioned, you can't have sex. Which just an adult, a premier of a province, in a room with multiple cameras, showing that much concern for the sex life of children is, can somebody check her hard drive? Maybe that's not something I think most adults would worry about, would think about. It's just, when I was watching this video earlier today, I literally did, I stopped and I did a what the fuck moment when I heard that, because wow. So here in Canada, we have a counter to the right. We have the Liberal Party. I say a lot of bad things about Justin Trudeau all the time. But unlike in the United States, people who aren't part of the Conservative Party will actually call them out. So he's very good. Justin is very good at performative politics. And he has called out provinces before, and he does it again. And this is good. I appreciate that about him. We need more politicians, especially in the States, doing just that.
Canadian parents love their kids, and we want the very best for them, and we want them to be kept safe. LGBT youth across this country are among the most vulnerable to homelessness, to suicide, to a range of things that can harm them. We need to be there to defend them. We need to be there to protect them. And I know Canadians across the country are doing just that. It is telling that the week after welcoming far-right American conservative Tucker Carlson to her province to sit with him on stage, Danielle Smith has now moved forward with the most anti-LGBT policies of anywhere in the country.
Could you imagine Biden being this direct about Florida and DeSantis? Like, that's what you Americans need to take away from us. Like I've said, I have plenty of criticisms of Justin Trudeau, but his willingness to speak out on this is one of his stronger traits. And to do so directly, to state, like, just basically saying, having Tucker Carlson on stage with you is a sign that something is horribly wrong and that it's not acceptable what is going on.
Canadians need to know that the federal government and all Canadians will be there to protect youth. As a federal government, we will always be there to protect the most vulnerable, particularly vulnerable LGBT youth who need to know that there are people across the country there to fight for them. If Premier Smith wants to fight someone, stand with us and fight for Canadians on lower grocery prices, on affordable fuel, on more housing, on fighting climate change.
And the thing is that he's not, like, he's federal, she's provincial. But the reality is, you do need to work together. The federal government can't fix our problems alone. They need to be supported by the province. So when he says that Danielle Smith needs to stand with him and fight, he actually means that. Because the federal government they can do some things in most areas, but they can't solve the problems. It has to be done mutually with work between both the federal and provincial governments. Because federally, LGBTQ plus people are well protected. Federally, people have the right to an abortion. Federally, we're actually really good with laws and stuff. But the way they roll them out provincially is horrendous. Both the Liberals and the Conservatives. The Conservatives are more egregious, though. The Liberals just chip away a little bits in neoliberal policies. But it is necessary. So instead of working with Justin Trudeau to make the lives of Albertans easier, she's doing this. She's singling out a small group of people and passing laws based on her hateful, bigoted views.
Fight with us to defend the rights of vulnerable Canadians. Don't fight against vulnerable LGBT youth.
Yeah, like I said, very good statement from Justin Trudeau on that. I really do appreciate it. And he's not the only one speaking out. We have Justice Minister as well.
The one needs to reflect, just touch on the Alberta point, I would say also the one needs to reflect on this as a parent. I'm a dad, Mark's a dad. Parents have these conversations all the time with children. They need to be able to have those conversations with children. Sometimes children don't feel empowered to have those conversations. That's a small amount of children around the country, an even smaller amount in Alberta. I think actually targeting that small minority for some political purpose in Alberta, as it seems that the Premier is doing, is not becoming of her office and is in fact actually targeting and perhaps even demonizing those children. We're not talking about their exploration of their sexuality when we're banning kids from a schoolyard or from a playground or from a sports team. That looks more targeted, and that's what I have significant concerns about. There is nothing to go, that is a completely speculative question. They've announced what they're thinking about doing. They've not tabled anything. There's no legislation. There's nothing to be taken to court. I'm not going to speculate about future processes.
Again, at least we have politicians willing to call it out. But of course, then a lot of the Conservatives will say, oh, they're trying to cancel us and say this. But this is what politicians should be doing. This is their job, is to speak on behalf of Canadians, to speak up for the vulnerable people. And so the fact that even the, slightly right of center Liberal Party, even they can say that they do this, which is good. We need more of it. More, please. Just get up on stage and just, if Justin Trudeau made this his platform, okay, I still don't want to vote for him, but it would make it easier if I felt like I had to vote for the lesser of two evils. But I came across this, which again is devastating and really shows the horror of what Alberta Danielle Smith is doing, and just content warning on this. It's pretty graphic, what she says, but it's poignant.
Yesterday, Danielle Smith announced that any child under the age of 15 will need permission from a parent before going by anything other than the name or pronoun that they were assigned at birth. And the masses shout, it's my right. It's my right as a parent. And that is exactly what my mom said as she justified beating the shit out of me to her friends. That's exactly what she shouted as my grandmother tried to pull her off of me as she was holding a knife to my stomach. It's my right. Over the last 18 years, 90% of children who have been murdered have been killed by their parents. It's not your fucking right. It's your responsibility to be a safe place for these kids, and if you can't be one, there needs to be one. Yesterday, Danielle Smith announced that
when we talk about who's harming children, the vast, overwhelmingly majority of the time, it's the parents who are abusing them, who are threatening them. Came across this statistics. It's American, but you know, it translates to Canadian as well. It'd be the same type of percentages. 4 million children maltreatment referral reports received in 2021. Child abuse reports involve 7.2 million children. 90.6% of victims are maltreated by one or both parents. If we go down here, 80.3% of children fatalities involved fatalities involved at least one parent. Annual estimate, over 1,800 children die from abuse and neglect in 2021. 5 children die every day from abuse. Just horrific statistics. And yet, Danielle Smith is saying that children who might have parents who are abusive, it might harm them should they know their child is transgender. Well, they don't have that choice. Their parents need to know. And just looking at the comments under this TikTok of Bev, pretty gross comments. The "some parents are bad, so remove all parents' authority" argument works with teachers too. This issue is no doubt domestic abuse. Seek help if this is affecting you, but just because a small percentage of parents are bad doesn't mean rights should be removed from all parents. Get some help and maybe you'll acquire some perspective too. Parents don't have rights over their children. They have responsibilities. Children have rights. You know, you don't get to birth someone and then dictate every aspect of their life and control them. You know, they don't have the right to harm you. Children have the right to live their lives free of harm. These are two separate issues, child abuse and parental rights. I'm sorry for your trauma. It doesn't change Danielle Smith made the right decision. Just totally uninformed, bigoted people that think they own their children, that they can do whatever they want to their children. Disgusting. The Surf's pointing out, especially sick and twisted, that she spends the opening of this video telling trans people "I love you" before basically laying out how she's going to remove their health care. And this is the full video, 7.5 minute long video of her announcement of what she was doing. And yeah, I'll just play the opening bit so you get a sense of her tone towards trans folks.
My fellow Albertans, today I wish to address a very sensitive issue involving our children and gender identity. This is not always an easy conversation to have. I strongly believe that we as a society must support and reach out with kindness and inclusion to those who identify as transgender, and
kindness and inclusion by exclusion. Like, even again, preserving choice for children and youth by taking it away. That's what this is. Yeah. No, we want inclusion by exclusion.
and work to eliminate the discrimination they often experience in their lives.
So let's make bills directed at just targeting this tiny group of people so that they don't feel discriminated against.
As Premier of this province, I want every Albertan that identifies as transgender to know I care deeply about you
and I accept you as you are,
as long as you don't transition. Just deplorable human being. But the breakdown, found this little clip. The breakdown, again, if you are interested in Albertan politics, you need to follow them on Twitter. There's this clip from 2014.
At the age of 12, a child, if they've got a split home, can choose to live with mom or dad. So we recognize that a child as young as 12 can choose which parent they want to live with. At age 14, they can choose to have sex, as long as it's within somebody who's within a close age to them and not somebody who's in a position of authority over them. At age 16, they can become emancipated from their parents and make entire education decisions on their own. So there is, with these children, somewhere in the age of sexual maturity, somewhere above the age of 14 when they're in high school, where they really have the ability and right to be able to make their own decisions about the kind of support that they feel that they need to feel accepted. And that, to me, at the age of 12, a child...
So she knows better. She used to fight for the exact... She used to say the exact opposite of what she's saying now. That children as young as 12, they can choose what parent they live with after a divorce. 14, they could choose to have sex. Okay. Age of consent in Canada is currently 16, and it was raised from 14 back in like 2008. And so at the age of 14, though, depending on 2-year plus or minus, they can, which is disturbing. Most people don't know that. Age of consent in Canada is shockingly low. But they can consent on that. They can consent on other life-changing things. So she's aware that children are capable of making these decisions when they're very young. But now suddenly they're not allowed to make these decisions. NDP Plains Cree doctor slams Alberta Premier's transgender policy changes. Let's make this bigger. A Plains Cree physician who practices family medicine in Alberta says it's shameful that Conservative Premier Danielle Smith is playing politics with transgender issues. It's really important to know that people don't do this gender affirmation lightly, said Dr. James, who identifies as Two-Spirit and works directly with trans patients. It is something that they've known their entire life. And clinicians do thorough assessments of ensuring that people, when they say they are trans, they're trans, and we just ensure that there's not medical contradictions to doing so, and that there's a thorough assessment process for that. One of the greatest responsibility we have parents and teachers, that's what Smith said, which we already heard. We know the proposed changes. Yeah. Alberta NDP leader Rachel Notley, along with NDP MPs, held a conference in Ottawa on Thursday to address proposed changes. I'm so deeply, deeply concerned for what this means for transgendered and other marginalized youth within the community, Notley said. We know that houseless children disproportionately come from these communities because the relationship with their families have broken down. So the doctor from earlier says that who practices medicine south of Edmonton said regardless of what happens, the Alberta government transgender policy proposals won't change the work he does. I want to affirm my patients, my Indigenous patients, my non-Indigenous patients, my gender-diverse patients, my trans patients, that I will continue to practice trans and gender-affirming care on the reserve in a place where we have our own jurisdiction and continue to prescribe these life-saving medications that absolutely make a difference, he said. Oh, and look at that. Alberta got a shout out from Aaron Reed. Horrifying development out of Alberta for trans youth. A slew of anti-trans policies were released. Yeah, so Alberta even made her radar. Said something when American actually shows a story from outside of America. For a while now, I've been saying that there's a video essay I've been wanting to do called the Million March for Children. I wanted to do a video on that, but for the longest time in my brain, I haven't been able to finish the script, and I think a part of me knew the reason why was because that march never ended. I think subconsciously I was waiting for a conclusion to what happened. So for those of you who don't remember, the Million March for Children was a bunch of parental rights people that were anti-trans and anti-queer in general, protesting. And they were out-protested by pro-queer and trans groups. There was a lot more counter-protests to their hatred, which was good to see. So I feel like now I can finish that script because I know the hang-up. I know why I haven't been able to finish it. And incorporate that into it. We had a small win at that march because of the amount of counter-protesting coming out, but it's not over. We have to continue to fight to maintain these rights. We don't just get to keep them just because. There's always going to be people who want to drag us back, who want to take away these rights that we fought so hard to get. And it's ongoing and it's exhausting, but it's worth it. It's worth it to the people whose lives this will actually save. Like, this will literally save lives by having trans-affirming, like gender-affirming care for youth. It saves lives. Having, Gen Z, 20% LGBTQ+. And as I've said before, like, if I had known what non-binary was when I was a child, I would have identified as non-binary. And the fact that we've come so far since that language like that is available is amazing, is fantastic. It's what we're working towards. But then we have these right-wing politicians pandering to a right-wing, hateful, bigoted group of people that are trying to take away the progress we've gained. And we can't let that happen. We need people speaking out. We need people standing up. We need people not backing down from the fight. And I truly still believe there's more of us than there are of them. They know they're losing, which is why they're so loud, why they're lashing out so violently right now, is because they know they're losing. And we have to see this through to the end. Okay, let's see. There was anything else I wanted to cover? Told you. Didn't have much planned today. I wasn't sure. Now it's going to be like a 3-hour-long stream. That's a one-off. There's 2 one-off stories. I'll save them for another day. Okay, let's check the sandbox. Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys were as shocked as I was when you heard her say, maybe these kids haven't even had sex yet. How can they know what they want to be? Looks like chat got very active suddenly. I'm up at the top. I can't go down up anymore from here, so. Looney Tunes 9000, the fuck's she talking about? Can she please keep her hands in her pockets instead of being a perv? Brenda Knoll, in the US, trans kids are a middle class problem. No one would be able to afford the copays. Yeah, there is lots and lots of regret for trans people. But it's not from going through with the transition. It's from not being able to do it early enough. All of the trans people I know who transitioned as adults wish they could have done it as teenagers, as children, that they had gone through their proper puberty. Because puberty does make permanent changes to the body. So it's important that a child goes through the puberty that best represents who they are. Puberty blockers are irreversible. And quite honestly, they're not needed. They're just there as that extra step, that extra layer of like, are you sure you know what you're doing? As opposed to just starting them as soon as they start puberty on the proper hormone treatment. Like puberty blockers are, again, just to soothe the conscience of the parents, to make them feel better. They aren't actually needed. The child can just start the proper hormone therapy as soon as puberty starts. But, you know, need to take that extra little bit of couple years to make sure you know what you're talking about. People are talking about a trans relative. I don't know if she has if you're talking about Smith, I don't know if she has a trans relative. I would imagine that relative's not speaking to her if that's the case. Grand Theft Autobot, if they get hormone treatment, they ain't stronger. What the fuck? Besides, just being male does not guarantee physical superiority over female. What the double fuck? Yeah, there's lots of... When I was a child, I was one of the strongest kids in class. When puberty hit, I was mid when it came to boys. I was not weaker than all the boys in class. And they knew it. Everyone knew it. Yeah, just because someone is male does not mean that they're going to be superior physically to all women. There's such a range within. And yeah, after hormone treatments, the muscle mass, everything that goes down. But if they go through the proper puberty to begin with, there's virtually no difference, because it's always about the trans women, the trans girls on sports and stuff. And yet there was that case, and people saw it, of a trans teen boy who was on a wrestling team who was forced to wrestle with girls. And they put a stop to that quickly because they all looked at him like, no, he's a boy. Like that trans boy, he's a boy. He looks like a boy because he was getting the proper treatment and he had the muscle mass, the bone structure. He was a boy, and to have him go up against girls was very shocking for people to see. And you can see it with people who were able to transition when they were a teenager. You can't tell. It's just, you can't tell. Because their bone structure, the muscle structure, everything, the way they distribute fat, all changes if they get the proper puberty to begin with. Looney Tunes 9000. What the actual fuck? I think I know what you're talking about. Monope, so creepy. Yeah, you guys thought that was pretty, that the whole, kids shouldn't be making this decision before they had the sex. They They might want to see if they enjoy sex before they transition, because then they might not be able to have sex after that. And oh, so wrong, so wrong, so wrong. Space Cat, that thing of telling parents about their child's pronoun is bad for the children, because if the kid feels they cannot tell their parents, they have a reason. Their parents will hurt them if they do. Yeah. There's a reason. If they don't feel comfortable coming out to their parents, there's a reason. And all too often that reason is proven to be valid. My dogs are goth. Jesus fucking Christ on a cracker. I wonder what you were commenting on there. Maybe about the premiere. Concerned about the sex lives of children. Oh, God. How that clip has not picked up more traction, I don't know. I'm going to send it into the majority report. See if they can play it. It was just like, wow. They got a phone call from Canadian today. They seemed really interested in Canadian stuff. You know what? I could help with that. Just saying. You can learn more about what's happening up here in Canada. I'd be more than happy to help out with that. BKK, I'm terribly, terribly sorry. Albertans? Are you wondering why I said that word? Because that's what we call people who live in Alberta. Albertans. In Ontario, you're Ontarians. In BC, you're just from BC. But we say Albertans. We say Ontarians. I don't know if we really do that for the other provinces, though. PEIers? No, New Brunswickers? Maybe? Nova Scotians? Nova Scotians. We do that. Quebecers? Saskatchewaners? I don't think so. But we say Albertans. Shmigli, we must protect the earthly vessels. I mean wombs. I mean the children. Yes. I was able to get my tubes tied at 25 with no children. But that's because of my country's fondness towards eugenics and me having mental health issues. Doctor said to me, given your mental health background, I don't think we'll have a problem pushing this through. And 3 weeks later, it was done. Best decision of my life. I'm glad it was a decision I was able to make, because it gets taken away from a lot of people. Both them being forced to have children and their ability to have children be taken away from them. That is something that our government has done to way too many people. My dogs are goth. See, I don't even believe she buys into what she's peddling. And that clip from 2014 would kind of indicate that is true, that she's just doing all of this to pander to her phobic base. Morbius Dragon, I was the opposite. I first decided I wanted kids when I was 18, but it didn't happen until 10 years later. Yeah, some people know at an early age that they want to be parents, and some people know they don't. basically, as soon as I was old enough to know you didn't have to get married and have children, I knew I didn't want to. And part of it was when I was really young and did like try to imagine myself in the future with kids. I realized I always saw myself as a single parent because that is what I was so used to seeing. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the thought of being a single parent. And statistically speaking, coming from a household of single parents, you're more likely to become one yourself and all that sort of stuff. But everything else too. Like I knew I just didn't want to have that change in my life, to have, you know, I knew children weren't right for me and who I wanted to be as an individual. But there are people, like I said, who knew. They wanted to be parents almost all their life. And it's good to know that. And it's good to be able to, like, if somebody wants to be a parent, I want the government to support them 1000%. Schmeegly, it also implies kids can have no knowledge of their gender prior to sex. Yeah, like you need to have sex to affirm your gender to know. Because she's conflating like gender and sexuality as the same thing, I think. But I think a large part of it is she doesn't understand you can have sex after you transitioned. And she's worried that some people might regret not ever being able to have sex. Also, there are asexual people. There are some people who are simply not interested in having sex, and that's completely fine too. But trust me, they've thought of it. Teenagers have thought it. They've thought that part through. Most teenagers have thought that part through. Oh. Space Cat. Oh my God, children might have a new pronoun. Their life is over. The government needs to interfere. But yes, force them to have children. Yeah. 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 Before you can make any decisions about transitioning, we need to force you to have a baby to see if it's right for you. Looney Tunes 9000, Fucker Carlson has fucked up Canada. Yeah, he hasn't helped. Not at all. No. I covered that a lot in the last stream with Dan from the internet. I recommend people go back and watch it because all on the anniversary of the worst mass shooting, one of the worst mass shootings in Canada, the shooting at a mosque, and how that was influenced by Tucker Carlson. And that was 7 years ago. Now to see him on stage with the premier of a province espousing the same bigoted, hateful, stochastic terrorist rhetoric. I'm all for canceling people. He should not have a platform. That man should not have a platform. My dogs are goth. Yes, Justin. Yeah, something I can actually appreciate Justin for. He's very good at doing performative politics. And I do believe he actually believes that aspect of it. I do believe he's sincere in that talk. So that is, I credit where credit is due. Let's see. So life, I don't know the fuck any person votes against their best interests. Large time because they're uninformed and they don't know that's what they're doing. I've had conversation with family recently and I get it. I get it. You need to vote conservative because they'll lower your taxes, when actually that's not the case. They usually don't do that for, middle and lower class people. They don't actually lower the taxes, but anything you save in taxes, you end up having to spend more in healthcare and other public services and cost of living and all that sort of stuff. But they think that because they can get their taxes lower, that their life is going to be better, but that's not the case. It's the actual opposite. I'd be more than happy to spend more in taxes if that meant that we had universal health care. Let's see. Morbius Dragon, I'm not trans, but my father said a similar thing to me when I was a kid. He said I could do anything he wanted me because I was his. He could do anything he wanted to me because I was his, which is why the beatings went on for years. Yeah. A lot of people think that. It's scary. It's scary. Like, schools were supposed to be the place that kids could go and be safe, and so that abusive parents could be then identified, that children that were being abused could be identified and helped. It is, yeah, parents do not have rights to their children. They just have responsibilities. And quite often, the vast majority of the time when children are harmed, it's from their parents, just like all those people saying, oh, groomers and pedophiles and sex offenders and washrooms, oh no, they can't go into the wrong washroom because they might be attacked. When the overwhelming majority of those types of attack come from within the family. Let's see. Well, Space Cat saying you're new here. Well, welcome to the Sandbox. Nice to see you. That's what I call chat. I call it the Sandbox. Because I'm Sandy. This is Left of the Box. So chat is the Sandbox. Have a lot of really awesome people that hang out there and a lot of really awesome mods that I really appreciate. Galactic Streamlord. I don't think I've seen your name before. YouTube is tripping if it thinks I'm going to give Joe Rogan money, lol. Oh, you could give me money. I have a patron. Super chats, that sort of thing. PayPal. I could use it. I'll do that spiel in a moment as I'm signing off. It jumped. I hate when it jumps as I'm trying to scroll through. See, if I was getting an abundance of like super chats, then I wouldn't be spending so much time trying to read through these because I would just be reading the super chat and ignoring the chat. No, I love interacting with the chat and seeing what you guys have to say. But when it jumps to the end suddenly, I don't know where it jumped from. I think this is where it was. People saying I'm exactly right, and I don't know what that's in reference to, so I'm just going to assume everything. Oh, somebody said they're a dying animal wounded in the corner, lashing out. We just have to survive their tantrum. So you're talking about when I was saying that we're going to win. And they know they're about to lose. My dogs are goth. I thought you would cover the secret email from Alberta's Conservative Party. It's really damning. I haven't come across it yet, but stay tuned. I might when I come across it. Like I said, I spent 2 hours before this stream trying to find a fucking video that I could not find, and it was driving me crazy. Ugh. would have made my video so much more interesting at the beginning. Talking about the Yuck Yucks having the fundraiser for the Friends of the IDF. To help the brave men and women over in Gaza committing genocide. Brenda Knoll, I get a little burnt out on Trump news, so a different scandal would be nice change. Well, welcome to Canada. There's lots of things happening up here. That's the thing. When I started my channel, I'm like, I don't know if there's enough happening in Canada for me to cover. And then it's like, there's too much. I can't cover it all. Yeah, BKK was just wondering if Albertans was the right way to refer to them. And that's how I refer to them. I don't know if there's a proper way to refer to them. I see super chats are coming in. I'll get to them when I scroll down. I'll see them. Thank you. Let's see. People signing off for the night. Yep. Philip Auguste. Well, you could always change your mind. LOL. Yeah. So many doctors patting people on the head like, are you sure you know what you're doing? That you can do this? Because, you know, somebody who wants their tubes tied in their 30, it's not like they haven't made 1,000 other decisions and that have had life-changing, altering effects in their life. But you might want more children later on. Do you know what? That's called a consequence. And I knew that when I was getting my tubes tied. It's like, if I ever change my mind, well, then that's on me. That's my fault. I'll have to live with that decision. And I knew that would never happen, and it hasn't happened. In fact, I used to get nightmares I was pregnant. Actual nightmares, and I wake up in a panic after in the dream thinking I'm going to sue every doctor that was involved with the surgery. And like, who am I going to give this to? Ah! Like, literally, that was my dreams. Space Cat, this is weird belief that once you're not a virgin, you somehow get wiser, more mature, and intelligent. And that belief is so stupid. Not trying sex doesn't make people ignorant in everything. Now, lots of people remain virgins for long times in their lives. It's not like you need to, you know, have sex before you understand a lot of things. But it's totally fine to experiment with sex too and try things out and realize, you know what, maybe that wasn't for you. It's all part of, you know, part of having fun. Experiment with sex. Yeah. When you're an adult with consenting adults, try things, you know? See if you like that thing you've been thinking about. Philip Auguste, Sandy, did you put Dan up to it? Put him up to what? Coming on my show? I asked. And he's, I'd like to think of him as a friend. Autistic thing, I never know if I'm friends with somebody or not until they've made it official. And I don't think we've officially just like shook hands and said we're friends. But I imagine we are. Grand Theft Autobot, weird how the same people who want governments to stop pronouns and gender affirming care are often the same people who claim to want less government interference in their lives. Very true. Yeah, same on both sides of the border with that one. Shade Dragon, conservatives are incapable of seeing anything deviant as anything other than a sexual kink instead of an integral part of their identity. What isn't inherently sexual as far as they're concerned. I think I get what you're saying there, that anything that basically isn't the most vanilla missionary style sex and heteronormative attitude must be a kink, as opposed to, you know, just an expression. Space Cat conservatives only lower taxes for the big companies. I don't why people cannot see that. Yeah. I always hear from people, it's like, oh, the conservatives are going to lower our taxes. Well, the conservatives have been in power for quite some time, and have your taxes been lowered? And has that benefited you? If they wanted to do that, they could have done that by now. Oh, it jumped again. Ah. My dog's a goth. I love dangerous women. Huh. I don't know who you're referring to. Somebody in chat? Because I'm dangerous, but I'm not a woman. Soul Life, thank you for the $2. I really appreciate it. And my dogs are goth. Thank you so much for the $5 in memory of a very good boy. Oh, yes, you lost your little fur babies recently, I remember. And they're $5 from my dogs are goth. The best boys there ever was. Yes. I love Frodo, my cat. I can sense it from him, though. He doesn't have much longer, and it's devastating. I love him so much, but I have to give him medication to try to help with the nausea so that he'll eat, because he has kidney disease. And now anytime I approach him, he runs and he hides, and I have to chase him down, and it breaks my heart. Because, like, if he's sleeping on the bed and I used to be able to just go up to him and give him kisses on the head and snuggle up with him when he was on the bed. But now as soon as I approach him, he runs off and hides under the bed. And when he gets under the bed, it's very difficult for me to get at him. And so then I have to scare him out from under the bed. And I hate it. I hate it so much. I just want him to eat. But even I can feel there's a growth on his abdomen that the vet pointed out. And when I'm rubbing his belly, when he's having his bedtime snuggles, I can feel it. So he doesn't have much longer. So if any helps with his vet bills would be greatly appreciated. Because I've been having to take him back into the not-for-profit vet at least, so it's cheaper, but it's still adding up. And you can help out by through PayPal. I have it linked below, as well as if you're Canadian, you can send an e-transfer to SandeeLovas@gmail.com. Every little bit helps. He's my world. When he does pass, I'm going to get him cremated, which he'll be the first out of all my babies, all my loved ones. I can't bear the thought of being separated from him at all. So I'm actually going to get him cremated as opposed to buried on property. Good for Gabby. Thank you so much for the $9.99. Appreciate you, Sandy. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone for coming out, sending things, like chatting, engaging. It's great to have this community. It's good to have a supportive community, especially, you know, people who can understand each other, or at least try to, compassionate people, there for each other, you know, when we have our down times, but also there to celebrate the good times, you know? Chrissy said, I feel like I have dementia when I think about sex. It's been so long I can barely remember it. Huh, I know the feeling. Oh, jumped again. Oh. Okay, now I'm getting really curious to watch the rest of the power report from last night, some of the comments in here. Oh, come here. Hey, you don't get to come in the room and then not come up on my lap for people to see you. Come here, Lanier. Come here. Come on, you want to come up. Come on. Come. Come on up. There we go. We have a Lanier. Lanier and Abernathy absolutely love each other, and they'll come and they'll both curl up on my lap at the same time on the chair, and it's the sweetest thing. I'm glad that they get along. It's so nice to actually have cats that get along. Oh, he's so cute with his little white goatee. You can see it? See his little, it's just like a little fin of a goatee right here. I constantly pull at it and it drives him crazy. Oh. Philip Augusti. Hey, what is an e-transfer? Tell me you're American without telling me you're an American. It's a thing us Canadians can do. We can just, if we want to send money to people, we can literally just do it in an email. Because all of our banks work together, and then that way there's no service charges or anything. We can literally just do an email transfer of money to each other. It's great. And then, you know, you don't have to worry about PayPal taking a chunk of it. So if you're Canadian, I prefer that method. Did it jump again? No? Okay. I don't know who it is, but somebody seems to be very upset right now. And all I can say is I hope you feel better. I can't. BKK, I ugly cry at least 5 times a day. Let it flow. I think somebody has been crying. Oh. Hey, we're here for you. Sorry, I don't know. I've been skipping through chat. I don't know what it's for, who it's for, but, you know, here you're appreciated and here you're part of a community. And we're all here for each other. My dog's like, "Aw, Sandy, it feels so helpless." It does. But, you know, Frodo, he's 16. He's lived a long life. But he's the only cat that I've had for that length of time. And for a few years, it was just me and him. So we developed quite the bond because the first cat that I had that lived to be from kitten to 17, losing him was devastating. But even with him, there was the year that I was in the shelter that I didn't have him in my life. You know, my mom was looking after him and stuff. And when I went to college, my mom was looking after him. Frodo has been there the whole 16 years. You know, we've never been separated for much more than a week at a time. When I've had to travel for one reason or another. And for a few years, it was just me and him. And we can communicate in such a way that I've never had with any other cat before. Like it is like we could actually communicate and talk. And the way that every night he'll snuggle up with me, and every morning he's there for me to snuggle in with me, and Yeah, losing him will be devastating. I was just really hoping I'd be in a better place. You know, that my life would be together and all that sort of stuff, that I'd have some sort of stability by then, but because, you know, it is easier dealing with a loss when you aren't dealing with so much other stress and strain in your daily life. Oh, it looks like Environmental Coffee House is going on after this, so everyone can head over there when this is done. I need to eat because I forgot to eat because I was so desperately looking for that stupid clip I never found. Da, 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 da. Let's come back up. Let's see, I'm almost at the bottom. I think a lot of the support is going towards my dogs are goth, yeah. Yeah, I feel it. I know that pain of losing fur babies all too well. And it's a tough decision, you know, when you decide to bring a new one in your life, knowing eventually what will happen. But that time that they spend with you, that time that they're in your life, I can't imagine my life without them. You know, I wouldn't trade that time that I have to spend with Frodo for anything in the world. And all these babies have just made my life so much more complete. And so, like, even with this little guy, I haven't even had him a year, but already I can't imagine what it would be like without him. And we're just at the beginning of the journey, and I know at some point I'm going to have to lose him too. And, you know, it's a choice you make, but having them there for that time it is painful, but the memories you have with them, it's worth it. That bond, that connection. Yeah, you're so sweet. You're so sweet. Okay. My dogs are goth. You guys have no idea what that did for my heart. Endless love. Thanks. I needed this. Thank you all. This is all I will say about it. Yeah. No, I'm glad that we have this community, this great community that we're developing. Oh, okay, just want to make sure I haven't missed any chats. Oh. So, again, this here, this is Frodo. Any help with his vet bills? I have to take him in every now and then to get fluids under the skin, subdermal fluids, medications. I have to give him special kidney food, which I'm worried I can't actually give him because he doesn't seem to eat it at all. So tonight I'll experiment by mixing it in with regular food. And if he eats that, then it's not good for his kidneys, but it's the option of, does he starve or does he have kidney failure? Not a decision I want to make, but I want him to eat. He does eat. He's not completely starving himself, but so any help with that would be great. Let's do this. I'm working on a new drawing. You can check out my artwork here. I'm hoping to get that one done sooner than later, and then I'll be able to show it off to everyone. But you can buy prints of my artwork. I know my community, and as much as I know a lot of you would love to support my artwork, I know it's out of most of your price range, and I understand, and I appreciate you guys wanting to support me there. But, you know, hopefully I start getting an income from my artwork. You can find me on these social medias here, but primarily I'm still on the Hostile Fart Sauna, known as Twitter. X, also known as my gender. I'm trying to clip more things, so on Sunday I would normally have a live stream at 6 p.m. Not 100% sure if I'm going to have one this Sunday, only because I want to get caught up. I've decided not to go back too far with my live streams to clip them. So I'm just basically starting at Ravana's, and then I want to start clipping them, and then hopefully get caught up with that so that I clip them the next day and then can send out those clips throughout the week. So I want to get caught up with that. So I'm not 100% sure I'll get around to a live stream on this Sunday. So we'll see. But ways that you can support, you can become a patron, or if you just are able to give a one-time donation to help out, there's the PayPal, there's also the e-transfer. Also, I have an Amazon wish list linked in the description box below, and there's a variety of items on there for a variety of reasons, and some are just to make me smile. Some help build this studio. Show you how important it is. Somebody bought me box lights, soft box lights. This is what my live streams would look like without them. So much appreciated. So simple things like that really help the quality of my videos. So every little bit there helps. There's treats for the cats. Right, I was going to add another tripod onto that. I realize I need another tripod. I get a lot of use out of my tripods for between studio and photography and stuff. Yeah. And I try to have a range of prices on there. So if you just want to show your appreciation by buying me a bag of M&Ms, you know what? I really do appreciate that because M&Ms are delicious. And there's almond M&Ms, which are amazing, and peanut butter M&Ms, which are my favorite. Yeah. And so next live stream will be definitely Wednesday at 6 p.m. unless there's unforeseen things in between now and then. But I will try for Sunday. Also, now that I know what the hiccup was, and the reason why I couldn't sit down and finish that script for the Million March, I'm actually going to sit down and finish that script. So I'll get that out because I still want to do more video essays. And I have been clipping videos. So please, when you see, go check out my channel if you don't get notified. If you don't see them pop up on your YouTube feed, just check out my channel every now and then under the shorts and videos to see if I've clipped something. And if you could like it, add a comment under it to help it with the algorithms. It really is, helps a lot to bring attention to my tiny little channel. I recently had a YouTube minute, as I keep on wanting to call them, but they're not. They're called YouTube Shorts, but I call them YouTube Minutes. I had one get over 1,200 views, which was great. And then the next one got 10. So no consistency. And I'm still waiting for a clip of mine not about TYT to get over 1,000 views. Not about TYT or the Majority Report to get over 1,000 views. That's very rare. Very rare. But and since I've been rambling so long and people have been in the chat, it makes me want to check the chat again before I sign off. But I do actually need to eat. Normally I would go for a walk right now, but I forgot to eat earlier, so I should have dinner. And I have a purring cat on my lap. My dogs are gone. Now I want M&Ms. Yes. You know what I always thought? And I've done this for parties before. I would do an M&M party mix where I would just go and buy like a pack of peanut M&Ms, plain M&Ms, almond M&Ms, peanut butter M&Ms, caramel M&Ms, and then put them all in one bowl and mix them up. So you have an M&M party mix. They should just package it like that. So, like I said, I will try for a live stream on Sunday, but if not, definitely Wednesday. And I'm trying to get more people onto my show. I'm also trying to get onto other people's shows. So feel free to bug other leftists to get me onto their shows. Anyway. Yeah. Everyone head over to Environmental Coffee House. And let's do this. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. Ugh. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today. Say bye, Linear. Bye, Linear.